Hey, what's up, Agents for Life? Welcome to podcast number 206. Super glad you're here, as I am always. If you are listening or if you are watching on YouTube, welcome. This is the Agents for Life podcast. And today we're going to jump into some training, some more sales training, continuation from last week. And before I do, though, I want to just put in a couple of plugs for those of you that haven't heard yet. National Convention in February in Raleigh, North Carolina. You want to get your tickets. The tickets do not cost anything. You just got to get yourself there. Hotel and travel costs, but you need to be there. Everybody needs to be there. So start planning now, start saving, go write some applications, get the trip paid for, and get yourself there at any cost that you can, because it's 100% worth it. These are game-changing events. One simple lesson from the field that I wanted to share. A couple of weeks ago, I did a little booth. Okay, I'm always trying new things. You know me. I did a booth where I set up a little canopy. It was at a fundraiser event for a nonprofit, and we had to think outside the box. I'm not going to tell you what we did because I'm still analyzing, but so far it's looking pretty good. It's a little mini case study. So those of you that like some out-of-the-box ideas, stay tuned. In an upcoming episode, I'm going to cover the details on that, but kind of an interesting approach. And I'm learning some things here with it that I'll share with you a little bit later. But today, for today's podcast, what I really wanted to talk about was the Jeopardy approach to selling life insurance. Now, what do I mean by that? Any of you who have watched Jeopardy, what does he say, right? I think it's Alex, whoever it is. He says, they show the answer and you have to guess in the form of a question. So what it does is it forces all the contenders to ask questions the whole time. And I thought to myself, that's brilliant, because as agents, that's what we need to force ourselves to do. When you're on an appointment, you need to be thinking in terms of questions, not speeches. Okay. You don't want to be telling, you want to be painting a picture, and you do that by asking and letting them talk. So you want to be talking less. You want to be asking so that they talk more. Someone who tells their story, someone who has someone to listen to them, they will appreciate you taking the time to listen to their case. They'll see you as not just a salesperson, but an advisor, or somebody that's genuinely there to listen and then make recommendations. I only make recommendations after I have adequately listened to what's important to the prospect. Okay, so that's the intake. So this is a questions-based model. So I'm going to tell you some of my favorite questions. Some of these are along the lines of mortgage protection. Some of these are regular life insurance, and they're at different phases of the appointment. So starting off, and I'm just going to go through these pretty quick. These are rapid fire. So if you want to write these down, you can. If you want to download them, they're in the presentation guide. But these are my favorite questions so far. And there's probably more. I'm kind of a geek. I'm a nerd. I collect questions. So whenever I'm listening to podcasts or if I'm on a conference, if somebody has a really good question to ask a prospect, I love writing that down. And I love trying out questions, because questions get answers. They get insights. They reveal a little bit into the mind of the person that you're talking to. So first one, if you're on a mortgage protection appointment, have you ever gotten mortgage protection before? How familiar are you with this? Love that. Just kind of setting the stage for it. You can ask questions about their mortgage, about, their background. I love asking the question. Here's another one. What's kept you from getting coverage so far? What has you looking into blank? There's another one. What has you looking into life insurance? What has you looking into mortgage protection insurance? I like that because it's open-ended and it's going to get them thinking and starting to reveal a little bit about their why. Now, the very first time they answer that, it's going to be just the surface answer. It's like an onion. You're peeling the layers to get to that core. So you've got to keep asking. So why is that important to you? Well, blah, 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 blah. Well, why is that important now, though? What else is important about it to you? Just keep asking a little bit more about that why, to really dig down deep to the importance. But I like getting started by asking, what has you looking at life insurance right now? Or what has you looking into mortgage protection or whatever it is you're selling? Final expense, annuities, IULs, you can apply it to whatever. It's a great curiosity question. Okay. Now, moving on in the connecting phase, when you're really trying to connect with them. Here's one. At closing, by chance, did your loan guy go over how you can pay off your mortgage in about half the time while building a cash asset? That is the debt-free for life, right? So you can ask those questions. Here's another one. When you're doing the needs analysis, here's a few that I really like. What other debts do you have besides your mortgage? Do you have any current life insurance in place? I like to find out what kind of life insurance they already have. What do you have for emergencies? 401ks, investing, savings. What other kinds of assets do you have that can act like life insurance? Okay, I like to put check boxes on the 401ks, on the pension, on anything they have that's going to help fill that gap. Most salespeople would say, well, why would you ask about that? Because that diminishes your sale. They're like, oh, yeah, I do have assets. Maybe I don't need life insurance. Well, after about 1,400 appointments or applications that I've written, probably 3 times as many appointments, I haven't had that happen yet. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. People know that they have those assets before they filled out the form. So I like to ask what they currently have because I'm not afraid of losing the sale over it. Obviously it's there whether I ask about it or not. But I think the prospect appreciates that I'm being comprehensive, that I'm trying to look at everything. So I have a deep, accurate understanding of what they need to finish fixing the problem. It's a gap. I call it a gap sale. Here's the problem up here. Okay. And we have this, and this. Okay. So we've got a little bit of life insurance, maybe something through work, although I don't like to count that. Maybe you've got a little 401k, maybe you've got this. All right. So we're right here. So I'm going to sell this. I'm going to sell the rest. And if they want to go higher, they can. But it's the gap sale. And I like to build. So what do you got? Okay. And then from here, what else you got? Okay, great. So we just really need about another 100,000 to finish the job, to get you where you want to be, right? So boom. All right. I think we got our answer. Now you look at 100,000. It's a whole, it's a term. We're going full medical, non-medical, et cetera, et cetera. So I like to go through that process with them to find out all of their assets so I can know where that gap is, so that I can bring them along and then know how to position my recommendations. They appreciate that I'm doing a full intake. So what other debts? Okay, so I went over that one. How long could you survive on so-and-so's income? So after I find out the income and the remaining income, if so-and-so dies, how long could you survive on that? Or if there's a lump sum, you've got 300,000 of coverage, spend it. Right? How long would that last you? So if they make 100,000 a year, they're used to that, and they get a $300,000, they have a $300,000 life insurance policy. Well, simple math says that's only going to last them about 3 years. What are you going to do after that? So I like to ask that. What would you do? Where would you go? Would you go back to school? Like, kind of go down that path a little bit with them. And next one. Okay, so on the underwriting, tell me about your health. What medications are you on? Any prescriptions? You want to take those prescriptions back 7 to 10 years? Ever been declined or rated for a policy? Great question. And a younger person, always ask about DUIs, speeding tickets. Those are the big ones. Younger people are usually healthy, but sometimes they have parole, probation, DUIs, things like that, that can get in the way of their being approved. So mortgage payoff, direction number 1. Here's a great question to ask. If you stop, and this is in regards to the living benefits, if you stopped working because of a chronic, critical, or terminal illness, what happens to your income? Now, it seems like an obvious question. Well, duh, my job's not going to keep paying me if I'm not going in, but I still want to ask because I want them to say it out loud. So what happens to your income? Well, it goes away. How would you pay your bills, right? So we're selling the value on the living benefits. Now, as you go along, this is a great question. It's just just bringing them along question, right? Does this sound like the type of coverage that would be important for you to have? Okay. I like to ask that. Are we on the same page here? Does this feel like it would be valuable to you? You have any questions so far? How's everything sounding so far? Right. I'm little mini checkpoints to give them the opportunity to raise their hand and say, well, I don't know about this or that. I like asking those little bring along questions. Here's another one. If we can find something that fits comfortably in your budget, is this something you'd want to go ahead and take care of? Okay, that's a pre-sale. I'm setting them up to, yeah, I think I would. So that when I ask for the sale, we've kind of already crossed that bridge, right? The expectation is we're moving forward. I'd rather know earlier in the appointment than later if there is an objection. Like, we're really not doing anything today. I want to know that early, not when I'm asking for the sale. Because if I find out early, it gives me time to massage that objection so that by the time we get to the sale or the end, the close, it may be dissipated and it's not as big a deal anymore. Here's another one. This is for the critical period discussion. If you're talking to somebody that's older that can only just afford a small, like a final expense plan or something, would you agree that right after the death of a loved one is not the best time to make major financial decisions? Did you know that most foreclosures happen within 6 months after the death of a spouse? Well, I wonder why, right? You lose all that income. You're protecting that and that equity. That's really, really important. If so-and-so, the spouse, didn't come home from work, how much time would you need to get through that? So there's another question. All right, here's some leading up to the sale. Okay, everything making sense so far? Again, I love that. Would you agree that something is better than nothing? So I like to preface that with, life insurance is scalable. It's better to have something than nothing. Would you agree? Like, in other words, if I could write you a check for $50,000 versus a check for $0,000, which one would you rather have? Again, dumb question. A lot of sales questions, frankly, are dumb questions. They're like obvious questions, but I'm bringing them down a path, right? I'm getting them thinking about their future pacing. So before I get into this, before I get into the pricing, let me ask, as long as this fits your budget, can we agree that you're going to go ahead and move forward with something? Okay, I like to be kind. I'm not high pressure about that. But I want to know, is there anything else besides the budget? If we can find something that fits your budget, can we agree that we're going to go ahead and get started with something? Can we agree that this is important enough for you to get started with even just something? I like to call it a starter plan, a little, $50,000 minimum term size, something like that could be like a starter plan. As you evolve into the pricing, into the close, does this sound like the type of coverage you're looking for? Okay. And I like to recap. So just to make sure we're on the same page, you have this, you're about 100,000 short. We're looking for this. It looks like from underwriting, everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and run some pricing now. Are we on the same page? Is everything sounding okay to you so far? So if we find something that fits your budget, would you want to move ahead? I really like that. And then, when you present pricing, now you obviously know your budget a lot better than I do. Which one of these makes the most sense for you? Which one of these feels best in your budget? Now, if they're questioning or they're pausing or hum-hawing, you can ask respectfully, would you like my opinion? Okay, don't give your opinion, but just offer, would you like my opinion? If they say yes, of course, now you can, say, well, here's what I would do. And always my opinion is this. Whatever your budget is, if you're starting to shake a little bit, the hair on your neck standing up a little bit, back it off and settle there. We can always get more coverage later. What we can't do, you've probably heard me say this many times, what you can't do, Mr. Prospect, is go back in time and get some coverage that you could have qualified for, that you could have gotten, but you turned down. Okay. That we can't do. What we can do is get something. We can always change it later. You can replace it later. You can cancel it later if you change your mind. What you can't do is go back in time and get something you qualified for that now today you don't because, I had a heart attack or I had a stroke or I had a cancer diagnosis or something, right? Okay. And then here's another question to ask. Is it the price or the coverage that you want to think about? And this is if you get some question like, I want to think about it. If you do a really good job, you won't get that very much, but sometimes you still do. Is it the price or is it the coverage that you need to think about? I want to get them thinking about their think about it, right? I want them to help me understand what it is that they're thinking about. Is it the price or the coverage? Okay, they're not expecting that question. And then here's another one. Would you mind me asking, what specifically are you needing to think about here? Now, if you say that in a nice way, like, what do you got to think about? You don't want that sarcasm in there. That's a little snooty. You want to say, well, if you don't mind me asking, which is a very polite way of leading into it, if you don't mind me asking, what specifically are you needing to think about here? Just so maybe I can help you, with something that you might not be understanding. Or if you don't want to say that, you can, but that's fine. But that's the intent. Like, I'm here to help. If there's still something you're not getting, I want to make sure I explain it to you. Okay. And then to wrap up, you want to ask questions about, what else do you have that can act like life insurance? Have you had an old 401k? Have you changed jobs at any time in the last 5 years? Had an old 401k just sitting there? Are you comfortable if they do have a 401k? Are you comfortable with the risk you're taking on that? Would you like to see some options that would allow, or ways to grow it while protecting it against loss? Would you like to see some options that guarantee growth, but or have the potential for market upside or potential for gains, but eliminate any potential losses? Is that something that would be interesting to you? Are you open to potentially see better ways of protecting and preparing for retirement? So anyways, once you make the sale, of course, the next set of questions is all about trying to get another opportunity to talk about either an annuity, an IUL, infinite banking, or debt elimination. So, and I've talked about that. You're going to hear me continue to beat that drum because it is that important. I think we're completely missing the ball. We could be writing so much more production if we were asking those questions on every appointment. So anyways, I hope that's been helpful. There's a lot of questions we can ask. I'm just scratching the surface. Maybe you've got some great ones. If you do, I want to hear them. I love questions. I collect them. I'm kind of a geek, like I told you, a little bit of a nerd. But questions are key. When you're presenting, be a questioner. Ask lots of questions. In fact, I challenge you to try and run an appointment with, as much as you can, Jeopardy, right? Only in the form of a question, as much as possible. And I think you'll be happy with the results. So good luck out there, and I'll see you around on the next one. Take care.